In 1997, DC Comics launched a new imprint called Tangent Comics. The goal was to present a world where the presence of superhumans had impacted everything about modern society, unlike the normal DC universe, which is more or less just like the real world despite all of the futuristic science and literal magic wielded by superheroes. The line consisted of 9 one-shots focusing on new versions of characters like the Flash, the Doom Patrol, the Metal Men, and of course Green Lantern. Tangent Comics Green Lantern #1 is written by James Robinson with pencils by J.H. Williams, inks by Mick Gray, colors by Lee Louridge, and letters by Dave Lampere. The title of this issue is From Beyond the Unknown. This issue very quickly sets the tone for what is still one of the most unique versions of Green Lantern DC has ever published. We're used to the core concept of Green Lantern being a shining light in the darkness with a strong, albeit adversarial, relationship to fear. So in a way, it makes perfect sense for a Green Lantern to be a character intrinsically tied to the horror genre. This entire issue is a Tales from the Crypt style anthology, with the Green Lantern playing the role of the Crypt Keeper, a sort of host who talks directly to the audience while providing the context for all of these stories. Stories that happen specifically because of her. In the Tangent universe, the Green Lantern's power is to temporarily raise the dead, so they can fulfill unfinished business and be at peace when they return to their grave. It's interesting to note that they don't come back as zombies or ghosts or anything like that. They are flesh and blood, they breathe, they are literally alive, but only long enough to achieve their goal. The Green Lantern herself is a masked woman in a hooded cloak, carrying a shepherd's hook which her magic lantern hangs from. She has a wry sense of humor, which is likely her way of dealing with the endless nights of roaming cemeteries looking for souls who need a second chance. And she doesn't seem to have much control over the process. The lantern itself teleports her to whatever grave is next in line, seemingly whether she's ready or not. The art for this issue is a perfect fit for what they're going for, and really cements that this was a good direction to take the idea of Green Lantern. There are so many great page layouts with very ornate borders, and they made the very smart decision that anytime Green Lantern is on a page, the lantern itself would be the only light source, allowing them to really lean into the mood that can be created by such an eerie and unnatural light. Overall, I think it's a very interesting concept, but its strength is also its greatest weakness. To go back to the earlier comparison, this issue is as much about the Green Lantern as an episode of Tales from the Crypt is about the Crypt Keeper. It's an anthology, and most of the pages are dedicated to stories about other characters, like Captain Comet, King Faraday, and Arthur Curry. And I think it would be very easy for a Green Lantern fan to pick up this issue because they're interested in reading about the Tangent Green Lantern, and then end up disappointed because the issue isn't really about the Tangent Green Lantern. I know that was my first experience with this issue. It works better for me now that I know what to expect, but it still feels like a missed opportunity to explore the titular character. We don't actually learn anything at all about the Green Lantern outside of her role as a horror host. We do get a brief look inside of her house, just enough to see that there's a main room full of all of the obligatory magic stuff the artist could think to pack in there, and also a pretty sensible kitchen. But other than the fact that she likes jasmine tea, the Tangent Green Lantern is a completely blank slate. Although that seems to be by design, since the last page teases us with the possibility of learning her origin story if we ever encounter her again. It turns out we wouldn't have to wait very long. Apparently things went well enough to warrant the Tangent Comics universe coming back the very next year, in 1998, with 9 more one-shots. Some of them were from new characters that hadn't been featured yet, like Power Girl and Batman, while others were returning characters who had one-shots the last time, like Green Lantern. Tangent Comics' Tales of the Green Lantern is another anthology, but unlike last time, the stories have different creative teams. The framing device, where the Green Lantern is talking to the audience, is made by the same creators as last time. Written by James Robinson with art by J.H. Williams III and Mick Gray, colors by Lee Louridge, and letters by Dave Lampere. I know this time it says letters by Comic Craft, but last issue said letters by Comic Craft's Dave Lampere, and the lettering looks pretty much the same as it did last time, so I'm pretty confident that they reunited the entire creative team for this second issue. And it feels very appropriate that they all came back, because this issue is a direct continuation of the last one. The Green Lantern approaches us from the distance, walking among old, overgrown graves, with veiny tree branches blotting out the night sky so effectively that neither the moon nor the stars can be seen. And she immediately makes good on her closing remarks from last time, offering to tell us her origin story. Sort of. What we're going to get is 3 very different, totally contradictory origin stories for this character, and it'll be left to us to decide which is the truth, if any of them even are. We start with the story titled Brightest Light, written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, with art by Mike Mayhew and Wade Von Grawbadger. This is the story of Lois Lane, who is a Lara Croft type in this universe, an archaeologist famous for her adventures and discoveries. She's hired by Booster Gold, a crooked billionaire, to look for any undersea treasure that may remain in the aftermath of a nuclear event off the coast of Florida. What Lois found was countless mutated sea creatures who'd already suffered too much at the hands of mankind, so she tells Booster off and warns him to leave those creatures alone. It earns her multiple knives to the back from Kilowog, Booster's 4-armed bodyguard. This is actually a good example of my biggest problem with the Tangent universe. They did such a good job of creating completely new characters that all these classic DC names just feel arbitrarily scattered around. Like they're just stapled onto random Tangent Universe characters for no other reason than to make a shallow reference. I said earlier that the Tangent Universe Green Lantern feels like something you could arrive at logically when you really think about the core concept of what Green Lantern is. And so far, I haven't felt that way about any other DC characters who have been mentioned in these 2 issues. Anyway, they stab Lois and throw her in the ocean, where the mutated fish people, who she later refers to as the Sea Devils, decide to repay her kindness by taking her to Atlantis. Some mysterious undersea force brought her back to life, giving her the power to avenge every dead person whose soul is restless, starting with herself. Booster pulls a gun, and Lois turns intangible, causing Kilowog to get shot in the face a couple times. Then the Sea Devils attack Booster Gold, destroying his yacht, condemning him to the same watery grave that he so casually tossed Lois into. The next story, titled Darkest Light, is once again written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, with art by George Ginty and Drew Garassi. A mercenary named Manhunter is shooting her way through a graveyard full of zombies in order to find Darkseid, a woman obsessed with the occult who was in charge of wartime death camps in Czechoslovakia. Darkseid has a magic orb that lets her raise the dead for one night to do her bidding, thus all the zombies. Manhunter's been trying to find Darkseid for a long time, and actually thought she'd killed Darkseid already, but it turns out that Darkseid had a twin sister, and Manhunter mistakenly murdered an innocent person. And wouldn't you know it, amidst all the chaos, the dead twin sister is standing right there in front of Manhunter. Though she's not a zombie, and Darkseid didn't summon her. Instead, she appears as a green-tinted ghost who came back for one night to take revenge against Darkseid for causing everyone so much pain. She's actually surprisingly cool with Manhunter, and brushes off her own murder as an understandable goof since they're twins and all. If more ghosts were this laid back, horror as a genre would cease to exist. Anyway, the twins clash, and Manhunter grabs a shepherd's hook with a lantern hanging on the end of it, which are all over the place, actually. That's just how the path leading to the crypt is lit up. Manhunter swings it like a baseball bat, shattering Darkseid's magic orb, which in turn makes Darkseid herself explode. All of Darkseid's supernatural power immediately goes to her sister, but changes in the process. Remember, Darkseid's orb would raise someone from the dead for one night as a zombie to do her bidding, but her sister's ghost appeared as she was in life, seeking a night of revenge against someone evil. Those 2 sets of magic seem to have combined into something new with aspects of both. A power that can raise other people from the dead for one night, as they were in life, to get justice. She decides to place the power inside of the lantern that Manhunter used to shatter the orb, just sort of on a whim. I find it more than a little annoying that the story never names the sister, but we actually do learn what her name is on the very last page of this issue. The Green Lantern is walking through a mausoleum, and we see her pass the burial sites of all 3 women who star in these stories. They're in reverse order, meaning Lois Lane is last, and the one in the middle has the first name Kori, spelled Kori, with a last name that starts with an A-N. It's obscured, but still, it's pretty obvious that this is the Tangent version of Coriander. Starfire. That means the struggle between the twins was actually a battle between Starfire and her sister Blackfire. The third and final origin story is titled No Evil, and is written by John Ostrander with art by Ryan Sook and Mick Gray. Zatanna is trying to join a coven of the world's most powerful sorcerers, but they aren't interested. After lots of arguments and threats, they issue her a challenge. Retrieve a specific magical object that the coven wants, and she can join. That object is the Green Lantern. It takes Zatanna 3 years to finally track down the Keeper of the Lantern, who's constantly teleporting back and forth across the globe, going to whichever grave is next in line for a night of retribution. Zatanna lashes out with the full force of her necromantic power, but it has no effect on the Keeper of the Lantern. And in fact, Zatanna's own spell backfires, both killing her and trapping her soul in her own lifeless body, unable to move. That is, until the Green Lantern revives her. The current Keeper of the Lantern is Jason Blood, and is destined to walk the earth fulfilling the duty of the Green Lantern until the day he finds someone to pass it on to, just as the former Keeper had passed it on to him. Considering the alternative was an eternity of being trapped inside of her own corpse, Zatanna agrees to become the new Keeper of the Lantern, dedicating her existence to forever following wherever the light of the Green Lantern chooses to take her. And with that, we get one final page of the Green Lantern talking to the audience. She won't commit to one of these being her actual origin story, and even says that maybe none of them are, promising that she'll tell us more stories if we visit again. So with all that said, who is the Tangent Universe Green Lantern? If I had to pick one of these three, I'd go with Coriander. I think the second story is much better than the other two, and it did a lot more work to explain who this person is and where this power came from. Not to mention that Cori is the only one of the three protagonists who actually talks and acts like the character narrating all of these stories. So if it has to be one of these three, I really can't see it being anyone but her. But that's if it's one of these three. The ending leaves the door open for all of these choices to be wrong. It wouldn't be too surprising if that was the case, since DC has done this exact thing before. Back in the 1980s, DC used to publish a series called Secret Origins, where every issue was devoted to the backstory of at least one DC character. Secret Origins number 10 was all about the Phantom Stranger, who's always been a notoriously mysterious character, and the creative team decided to play into that by giving him 4 completely different origin stories in Secret Origin number 10. The intention was never to give the Phantom Stranger an actual origin, but rather to amplify what a strange and unknowable figure he is. So it's very possible that the same thing is going on with the Tangent Green Lantern. This actually wasn't the last time we saw the Tangent Green Lantern in 1998. The second wave of Tangent comics included a JLA one-shot written by Dan Jurgens with pencils by Darryl Banks, inks by Norm Rappamond, colors by Rob Schwager, and letters by Comic Craft. The title of this issue is And Justice for All. Basically, a shadowy government cabal thinks that superheroes are a threat to the world and decides to neutralize them. They mobilize the Justice League of America, which consists of a handful of mercenaries on the government's payroll. The one that matters for our purposes today is the Question, who starts the issue by assassinating the Atom. He's assigned to go kill the Green Lantern, only she's kind of an urban legend who appears randomly in graveyards all over the world, so the only way to find her is to just keep searching random cemeteries and hope you get lucky. Fortunately for the Question, he only had to check 5 different graveyards before he ran into the Green Lantern. That's where his luck ran out, though, since this is a terrible matchup. Not only is she not alive enough to be vulnerable to bullets, but he's an assassin. He's killed countless people, and her main power is to bring back the dead to get revenge. For example, the Atom, the superhero that the Question killed at the beginning of this issue. Atom defeats the Question and links up with all the other heroes who are also being targeted, namely the Tangent Universe version of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. The 4 of them decide to become their own Justice League, so they can save the world while proving that they aren't a threat. The Atom won't actually be around for much longer, since he did already beat the guy who murdered him, which should mean that he'll have to return to his grave soon. But it looks like the Green Lantern is going to pitch in and help this group when he's gone. The issue ends with the Green Lantern narrating as if this was just another story she's telling us. It's not actually a fourth wall break this time, since she's commenting out loud while watching the gathering of heroes, which I assume she can do because the Atom is there and she resurrected him. Still, it's a nice way to bring in the narrative convention of her own comics, while making it fit with the reality of this shared universe. This story definitely could have benefited from the issue being longer, since they stuffed a lot into this one-shot, but it didn't turn out too bad. Though this is the kind of issue that'll make the most sense if you've also read all the other Tangent comics. I enjoy seeing this version of Green Lantern get into a fight. Her powers seem very passive and not combat-oriented, so seeing how she applied it in self-defense was interesting. It was also cool to see Darryl Banks, co-creator of Kyle Rayner and the definitive Green Lantern artist of the 1990s, draw the Tangent Universe Green Lantern, even if it was only for a few panels. So that was 1998. The Tangent Green Lantern wouldn't show up again until 2006 in the pages of Infinite Crisis number 6. This was a massive DC event full of universes being created and destroyed as the multiverse expanded and contracted, and we see the Tangent Green Lantern helping the rest of her world's heroes save as many people as they can. She's positioned as a literal guiding light, taking everyone to safety. This panel is significant for two reasons. First, and this is kind of unbelievable, but this is the first time the Green Lantern has ever directly interacted with the other heroes of the Tangent Universe. Second, this is where we learn that the multiversal designation of the Tangent Universe is Earth 97, a reference to the year 1997, when the first wave of Tangent Comics one-shots came out. It's a neat bit of trivia we learned just in time for it to never matter again, because Infinite Crisis reboots and reshuffles the multiverse. The next time anyone refers to the Tangent Universe by a number is in 2008, in Countdown Arena number 2, when the Tangent Universe Flash is designated as coming from Earth 9. At this point, there were only 52 universes in the multiverse, so the Tangent Universe couldn't be numbered 97, so they just dropped the 7 and kept the 9. Infinite Crisis ends with issue number 7, and once all the fighting has stopped, we get a single panel of two kids in the main DC universe, finding the Shepherd's Hook and Lantern washed up on a beach. In 2007, about a year after the end of Infinite Crisis, we pick up that thread in the pages of Ion, Guardian of the Universe numbers 8, 9, and 10. Written by Ron Mars with pencils by Paco Diaz, Yvel Guichet, Greg Ticini, and Fernando Pizarrin. Inks by Paco Diaz, Jay Rubenstein, Jay Liston, and Jonathan Glapion. Colors by Tanya and Richard Horry, and letters by Rob Lay. The two boys, who we later learn are named David and Josh, have been keeping the lantern in their treehouse for over a year, until it suddenly started glowing. Looking at it closer revealed what appeared to be all of the Tangent heroes inside of the lantern. And as the lantern continued to glow brighter and brighter, eventually Dave and Josh vanished, replaced by the Tangent Universe Flash and Atom. Kyle Rayner arrives on the scene, having detected the lantern's power, and ends up getting into a fight with Atom and Flash. They eventually outmaneuver Kyle, knocking him out, and place the lantern on his chest. It glows brightly again, and when the light fades, Kyle Rayner has been replaced by the Tangent Green Lantern. Kyle wakes up in the Bleed, a kind of buffer or membrane between universes. He finds Dave and Josh there too, meaning that the Tangent characters can enter the main DC universe through the lantern, but only if they take the place of someone who's already there, and that person gets ejected out of the universe into the Bleed. Kyle pulls himself and the kids back into their correct universe, which automatically banishes the Tangent characters back into the lantern. That pretty much resolves the whole situation, but it doesn't address the strangest part of the story. The fact that all of the dialogue from the three Tangent heroes is awkward and strange, like it only partially relates to what's going on around them in the moment. Kyle calls it out directly, and I didn't realize what was going on until the Tangent Green Lantern showed up. These characters are speaking entirely in remixed quotes from their Tangent Comics one-shots. When the Tangent Green Lantern first shows up at the end of Ion number 9, she says, "Ah, welcome, I am the Green Lantern, as if you didn't know." Which is a combination of the very first thing she says on page 1 of her first one-shot, and the final thing she says on the last page of her second one-shot. In Ion number 10, she says, "With my Green Lantern, I have been put upon this earth to give the dead one last wish." Which is exactly what she said on page 2 of her first one-shot, in the panel that explained the concept behind this character. It goes on like this, and there's actually one page that's an exception to this rule. The first page of Ion number 10 is treated like the first page of one of the one-shots, where the Tangent Green Lantern is standing in a dark cemetery talking directly to the reader. This isn't a location we see anywhere else in the story, and she's talking directly about her universe being destroyed during Infinite Crisis. So this page should be considered something separate from the rest of the story. But regardless, she regrets that her world and its people and their stories are all gone, but wonders aloud if there's a way for them to live again. All of this is very vague, and I can only speculate. But maybe the problem is that the Lantern's power is to bring back dead people, so it's having trouble bringing back living people, and that's why their dialogue is weird? Or maybe that part has something to do with the Tangent Green Lantern being a storyteller, leaving them only able to communicate by using words from their own past stories. I don't know, that's my best guess. The quirky dialogue could have just been something fun they came up with in the moment, or maybe it was part of a larger idea that got abandoned. Because I'll tell you right now, this never comes up again after Ion number 10. So the Tangent characters are gone again, but Kyle still has the lantern, which he gives to Guy Gardner for safekeeping. To see what Guy did with it, we jump over to 2008's Justice League of America number 16, written by Dwayne McDuffie with pencils by Joe Benitez, inks by Victor Lamas, colors by Pete Pantasius, and letters by Rob Lay. It turns out Guy put the lantern into storage. Now, you might think that means it's in a secure location on the planet Oa, where the Guardians and the Green Lantern Corps can watch over it. Or maybe it's in a vault beneath the Hall of Justice, where the Justice League can continuously monitor it. No. It turns out Guy rented a storage unit in New York and just sorta threw it in there. It's literally in an unsealed cardboard box labeled Kyle's Green Lantern thing. As luck would have it, some thieves broke into Guy's unit and were looking for something valuable enough to steal. And just like last time, the lantern started to glow, and one of the thieves was replaced with the Tangent Universe Atom. The police responded and then called in the Justice League. The team of Green Lantern John Stewart, Black Canary, and Red Arrow showed up to investigate. And just as a side note, John, Dinah, and Roy are an interesting spin on the classic Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Black Canary team-ups we used to see a lot in the old days. They called Guy to find out why he'd put a dangerous magical artifact in public storage, but he's busy chainsawing a Cthulhu, so they just go and confront the Tangent Atom instead. After Atom is defeated, the lantern seems to pull him back on its own, returning the thief who he switched places with. Black Canary takes the lantern to the Hall of Justice for safekeeping, but unbeknownst to them, this isn't over. Before the League arrived, a police officer was zapped by the lantern, allowing the Tangent Flash to return to the main DC universe. Her inner monologue confirms that the Tangent characters are in some sort of alternate dimension, and that making the trip into this universe leaves you feeling extremely disoriented. Which doesn't really explain the thing that was going on with the dialogue and the Ion issues. The Tangent Atom could speak perfectly fine this time, so maybe he's just getting used to traveling in and out of that dimension or something. This thread would lead directly into Tangent Superman's Reign, a 12-issue series written by Dan Jurgens running from 2008 to 2009. This story is about the Justice League of the main DC universe and the heroes from the Tangent universe crossing back and forth into each other's worlds, and it's all thanks to the Green Lantern. She's been separated from her lantern for months, and without its power to sustain her, she's been withering away. In the main DC universe, the Tangent Flash is looking for help getting home, so she approaches Wally West and tells him about the lantern. Wally takes her to the Hall of Justice, where the League stored the lantern after what happened at Guy's storage unit. He also calls in John Stewart, since this situation involves a Green Lantern of some sort. None of them can figure out how to activate the lantern, so John scans it with his ring, and that seems to wake the lantern up. It immediately transports itself back to the Tangent universe, and the three heroes get swept along with it. Apparently what happened is that the Green Lanterns of two different universes connected their powers, creating a small connection between their universes, allowing those lanterns to open doorways between their two universes. This isn't something they can just do all the time, and in fact, the only reason it worked in the first place is that the Tangent Green Lantern's lantern was stuck in the main DC universe after Infinite Crisis. If John didn't happen to be in the same room with it, none of this would have been possible. And that also means they can't open up any more multiversal portals after everyone goes back to their own universes. We basically learn two significant things from this series. First is the fact that the Tangent Green Lantern cannot survive without her lantern, likely because she herself is a dead person being sustained by his power. Second is the fact that the Tangent universe still exists. That actually hasn't been clear since Infinite Crisis, but the follow-up to that story, the year-long weekly series titled 52, establishes that a new version of the multiverse does exist, which is how the Tangent universe can still be around. A year later, in 2010, the Tangent Green Lantern pops up in Justice League of America numbers 50 through 53, in a story titled JLA Omega, written by James Robinson with pencils by Mark Bagley, inks by Rob Hunter, Norm Rappamund, and Don Ho, colors by Hi-Fi, and letters by Rob Lay. This is a period right before the New 52, when the Justice League was made up of legacy characters like Supergirl, Jade, Donna Troy, Jesse Quick. Batman is there, but it's Dick Grayson under the mask. The Tangent Green Lantern suddenly appears in the Justice League Watchtower, begging for help, saying that her world is dead. It was invaded by the Crime Syndicate, an evil version of the Justice League that comes from the alternate universe of Earth 3. Apparently, when Alexander Luthor, the Earth 3 version of Lex Luthor, died, it triggered a doomsday weapon that sent an ever-expanding cloud of poisonous energy spreading across the planet. The Crime Syndicate figured the only way to stop it was to open a portal and funnel the energy into a different universe, making it some other Earth's problem. They found the Tangent universe and immediately attacked. The idea was to eliminate any resistance first, then send over the Death Cloud. According to the Green Lantern, the Crime Syndicate defeated all of the Tangent heroes and even killed some of them. This story is very deliberately vague about who died, so going forward, things for the Tangent characters could change as much or as little as the next writer wants. But regardless of what heroes survived the fight with the Crime Syndicate, the energy cloud still washed over their whole planet, turning it into a toxic wasteland. Now, by the end of the story, the Tangent Green Lantern uses her powers to bring Alexander Luthor back to life, so that he and Batman can build a machine to reverse the effects of the poison cloud. And we are led to believe that her world is saved, but that shouldn't do anything to change the loss of life that resulted from the cloud or from the Crime Syndicate's attack. So when the Green Lantern disappears back into the Tangent universe, what she finds waiting for her is still a mystery to us. Now we have to jump all the way to 2019 to issues 10 and 11 of the first season of The Green Lantern, written by Grant Morrison with art by Liam Sharp, colors by Steve Oliff, and letters by Tom Orzechowski. There's another threat to the multiverse, so Green Lanterns from different universes team up to deal with it. I love the detail that none of them could agree on which universe should be called Earth 1, because of course each of them think their own universe is the main one. They travel to the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Earth 15, where the Tangent Green Lantern brings back the Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman of that world to help guide her team on their quest. Unfortunately, all they have time to do is give some ominous warnings before the group gets ambushed and the Tangent Green Lantern's lantern is destroyed. Without it, she immediately begins to wither away like we saw last time. Hal Jordan of the main DC universe and Green Lantern Batman of Earth 32 put her into stasis, and the lantern eventually gets fixed by the Star Sapphire of Earth 11, who also just happens to be there. With Hal and Carol distracting the guards, the Tangent Green Lantern brings back one of the villain's dead loved ones to throw him off balance, leaving him wide open to an attack from another group of Green Lanterns from across the multiverse. With the bad guy defeated, all the Green Lanterns return home to their own universes. And that's it! At the time of this recording, that's the last we've seen of the Tangent Green Lantern. It's been about 5 years since she's made an appearance, though that may have already changed by the time you're watching this video. DC is about to release a 7-issue Elseworld series titled Green Lantern Dark, which is described as a post-apocalyptic supernatural horror set in the remains of the Tangent universe, where the only hero left is the Green Lantern. It's worth mentioning that since Green Lantern Dark is an Elseworld series, it would be very easy for the events of that series to not count towards the established history of the Tangent universe. But I don't think that's very likely, considering the fact that the DC Multiverse contains a lot of universes that all started as one-off Elseworld stories. Not to mention the fact that the brief description of this series sounds like it could be a natural progression of where we left the Tangent universe after the Crime Syndicate attacked. Either way, I'm going to be covering every issue of Green Lantern Dark as they come out. So if you're interested in seeing what the future holds for the Tangent Green Lantern and the universe she calls home, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. That way you'll be sure to see all of my Green Lantern content as well as any tangents I happen to go on. Thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.